let's start exploring those.
Okay.
And so it leads to exploration and learning of things. Like as an example, if a company wanted to genuinely 10x in a year,
Yes.
you know, and I do have some fun stories about that, even 10xing in 60 days. You know, there's some, I've got some fun stories.
I know. I want to know.
I know. I was like, I want that.
But the fun thing here is that its purpose is actually what it says in the literature, which I love, is it creates a crisis in the present.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how to do it, and then you start to really analyze everything going on in the current business from the goal rather than toward it. This is key. You always want to come. The future is what determines the present, not the present shaping the future. So you want the arrow to come backwards from the future.
Yes.
So you always want to operate from the future.
Okay.
And so because it's so big, so it's so impossible, like Caleb going pro, it's like, okay, let's just look at everything on the table, right? Let's be honest, most of this stuff absolutely wouldn't get us there. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it does. But then it leads you to a lot of unique learning. You know, the learning and exploration of, well, let's start looking for information and ideas that are closer in that ballpark that I would never have been looking for or filtering for. You would never have been looking for that stuff without the goal. And so it leads you on an exploration and on a learning process. And that's one of the main reasons you said an impossible goal, is it leads you to learning unique, interesting things that other people aren't learning because they're not going for the goal. Think about Elon Musk going for Mars. Like, how many things does he have to learn and solve to even attempt that goal that he wouldn't be learning if he was going for some other goal? Like, yes. And so it leads to unique learning and the building of knowledge, resources, etc.
On that note of resources, and then I want to go back to reframing the past, because I don't think that we can actually move towards the future if we don't reframe the past. Would you agree?
It helps massively.
Okay.
It helps massively.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. So as we're defining that 10X goal and we don't know how to do it, what if you get to a point to where you realize that there's a couple things that you could start cutting away and then start doing to achieve the 10X goal, but you realize that you can't cut away some of the stuff that's funding where you are right now. Like,
you know, and Elon Musk talks about, like, the very first thing you want to do is you always want to question your assumptions, question your requirements. Because he says most people are optimizing a thing that shouldn't exist. What I mean by that is we're spending a lot of time growing something that shouldn't exist because it actually, and I'll call that the 80%, it actually isn't helping us get to our real goal. And so when you make a goal that impossible, whether it's so big or whether it's so close, it actually allows you to let go of things that shouldn't exist, that you're spending a lot of time growing. I'll just give myself as an example. I actually was growing a YouTube channel. And I'm not against YouTube. I actually think YouTube's a phenomenal tool. But for me, when I got really clear about my 10X, my future self, I was pouring a lot of energy into YouTube, and I realized this is something that actually shouldn't exist. It should exist for a lot of businesses and for a lot of people, but for me and my goals, my path is going to be very different. And so it allows you to strip away the things you thought were required to achieve your goal.
Got it.
But how did you figure that out? How did you say, oh, YouTube isn't for me? What were the questions you asked?
You
looked into?
Okay. I'm going to pause this, and I'm actually going to just talk about the past for a second. Just because I have to, but this is perfect. Okay. No. Benchmark this, just because I want to get to this. So we're going to talk about, resources, risks, and how did you figure it out?
Okay.
Right?
Resources, risks, and how did you figure it out?
Yeah, because that was your question. I just want to quickly say, with these ideas in mind, the impossible goal sets this really high floor. Mm-hmm. And the floor is the dictator of what you say yes and no to. And for an impossible goal, the floor is so high because almost nothing will work, right? Yes. Most coaches for Caleb won't get him to pro. So the floor is really high. Most of those are no. So we got to look for and find the ones that might get us there. Again, it's still a very impossible goal. But when you start looking for and finding those new knowledge or resources, right, then that's really where you want to build your mastery. By the way, one of the ways I look at it is that your system is your floor. They're the same thing. It's what you can do consistently. And so, like, it's what you're really good at. And so when you raise the floor really high, you're not good at it. You know, and but let me just give this example because I think just helping organize the past, and then we'll go truly. So this company that I'm working with, they had an impossible goal, which we're going for in 2024.